have stopped him from doing what he did. And so the good news is that there will be bollards installed for the Super Bowl. And I know again tonight that Bourbon Street will be closed to tourists, so please avoid that area because it is still an active crime scene, and businesses along Bourbon Street will be closed.
We had heard potentially of other streets in the French Quarter also being shut down, not just this portion of Bourbon Street or all of Bourbon Street. Do you have any information on other streets that may potentially be closed as well?
Yeah, there are some intersections in and around Bourbon Street in the quarter, and we will post those on social media and get those to you so people know exactly where to avoid. I would say that if tourists want to go to the quarter, go to the outskirts, go to Rampart, but don't head towards Bourbon Street because it very much is an active crime scene.
What would your message be to the people of New Orleans? I mean, a lot of people are, they woke up this morning to this horrible news. They're scared, obviously, that this terrorist attack is being investigated in their city. What message would you give to the people of New Orleans?
I hate to use the word resilient, but it's a word that applies to all of us who live in New Orleans. We've gotten through tragedies before. We will get through this, and we will get through it together as a community. So we just have to hug each other tight tonight, and make sure you're checking on people who you love. And I will say, we will get through this just like we've gotten through every other thing else. So, I'm proud of the city that we live in. I'm proud of our first responders, and I'm proud of the reaction that we've had.
And obviously it's not just the eyes now of the country, but internationally there are a lot of eyes on New Orleans with this event unfolding. Would you share that same message with people wondering, is it safe to come to New Orleans? Should I go there? Maybe they have a vacation plan. Maybe they're coming for the Super Bowl. Would you also share that message?
Oh, absolutely. I think right now, New Orleans is probably the safest that it's been. We have federal agents down here, ATF, FBI, the state police are down here as well. We have outpouring of support from surrounding parishes. So there's a lot of law enforcement on site. We had planned a very safe Super Bowl. We will continue with those plans. And so if you were planning to come for Super Bowl, please come. New Orleans needs the support, especially right now. So don't change any travel plans because we are a safe city, and we will have law enforcement on site.
All right, New Orleans City Councilwoman Leslie Harris, thank you so much for joining us this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's send it back to Lauren in the studio.
All right, Meg, thank you so much. And again, just a confirmation on those numbers again, 10 people dead, 35 at least injured. And we do have a statement from the University of Georgia president confirming that one of the students there was critically injured. This is what he has to say. I am deeply saddened by the devastating attack in New Orleans overnight, and I extend my sincere condolences to the victims, their families, and all those affected by this terrible tragedy. And they go on to say at this point, we have learned that a University of Georgia student was critically injured in the attack and is receiving medical treatment. I have spoken to the student's family and shared my concern, support, and well wishes on behalf of the entire UGA community. I would like to express my gratitude to all of the first responders who moved so quickly to help those affected by the senseless act of violence, as well as the medical personnel who are caring for those injured as we continue to hold these victims and their families in our thoughts and prayers. The university will do everything in its power to support those in our community who have been impacted by this unspeakable event. And that's the end of that statement. But again, that is confirming that a University of Georgia student was critically injured in this attack. A lot of people, as we know, we've been talking about, are here for the Notre Dame and the University of Georgia matchup in the Sugar Bowl. We've all been, preparing for this. Law enforcement has been preparing for this. 300 officers even out there last night, ready for security for the revelers, but also they're out there because this is a big day, and now this day has been tainted by this event.
Absolutely. And look, I was just right outside of the Dome just moments ago, right there at NOPD headquarters. We were expecting that press conference to come down at 11 this morning, and there was certainly police presence around the Dome. I mean, you saw multiple all agencies out there, definitely a lot around the NOPD headquarters across the street. I was asked at one point, does it seem like the security presence has increased around the Dome? I would say that just, knowing what big games like this look like, it seemed like a normal type of situation
Right.
for a day like this. It didn't seem like just, a swath of people everywhere. But there certainly were security, all around the area. So when you understand that they are going through that, sweeping the area, trying to make sure everything is safe. You all were talking earlier in the hour about the safety of a place like the Superdome and
Right.
how difficult it would be to pull off something there. So hopefully those fans who are coming to town are going to be able to have the chance to enjoy the reason why they came here. Unfortunately, some of them, as we've learned, at least one Georgia student
Is critically injured.
unfortunately came to New Orleans for what was supposed to be one of the most memorable times
A
of their
good
lives,
time, a happy time.
and is at this point not doing well. So all right, we're going to get to what's that again? We
Yeah,
have
what did you say? Landry.
all right, so we've got Governor Landry here with some statements. All right, so Governor Jeff Landry made this statement on the terror attack, saying it's a fluid situation. We are in coordination with numerous local and federal law enforcement agencies to ensure a complete and thorough investigation to bring those who may have been part of this incident to justice.
And I know that's something that they're looking at, even though we did confirm that it's 42-year-old, and this is from the FBI, Shamsud Din Jabbar. That's what we have confirmed from the FBI. They are still looking into if there are any other people that could have been involved, but right now we do know that this is the main suspect, and that suspect is dead. And we do know that as well. So again, a lot of questions. We did have a former special agent on earlier just talking about how there's a lot of questions going forward of what police have to look at, because it's not just like about this incident and then looking forward to the Sugar Bowl, but we have a lot of big events coming up, and this is really a test of our police department, and now they are getting help from the FBI of what can be handled here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fluid situation. That is absolutely certain. It's been a fluid situation out there on Canal Street all morning, where closures have snarled the area. Tourists are trying to get answers. And we've had Josh Robertson out there since before the sun came up, getting answers for us. Josh, what do you know now?
Well, Rob, I tell you, I feel like I might have informed more people straight to their face than I have actually done over the air. And I know, actually, if you can, Jason, we can do that for him. Come on. Actually, yeah, we're gonna get up. Bear with us. The camera's gonna move. It's gonna jostle a little bit. Just hold on just a second. So we're gonna move over here. Law enforcement's actually trying to get through here. So we're right here on Carondelet as it turns into Bourbon Street. So hold on a second. Let me actually. Hold on. You got it. They're going through right now, guys. I'm sorry. That's law enforcement trying to get through here, and this whole area is obviously still blocked off. And so, as you see, we were just right here on the street. No cars have been coming down, but that was law enforcement. They're trying to get through into the crime scene, past the crime tape. So we just wanted to help them out with that. But as I was going to say, we spent a lot of time out here this morning trying to answer people's questions directly to their face, and not always can we give them the answers that they are looking for, and we do our best to try to get that out as quickly as possible. But
All right, so it looks like his live shot there dropped out. Josh has been there near the corner of Bourbon Street and Canal all morning. We heard from police this morning just before 7 o'clock, giving us some details on what happened in this situation. Right there at the front of Bourbon and Canal is where they say this person began driving that truck at a high rate of speed that was clear that they intended to hurt people, entering on Bourbon Street right there at Canal, and then traveling at least, by my account, at least 2.5 blocks, nearly 3 blocks, near the corner of Conti in Bourbon, right outside of the Royal Sonesta, where the truck came to a stop there, and that is where he was shot and killed when he opened fire on police there in that area. So about 3 blocks from where Josh is where that incident happened, but where Josh is where that started. I believe we've got him back up now. Let's send it out to him again. Josh.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, and that spot you're talking about is just right there behind me is where we're told that that car, that truck, that white pickup truck initially hit the gas right here at the start of Bourbon Street, went down several blocks and crashed somewhere a few blocks down. And throughout that short that short spurt where he hit the gas, purposely trying to kill as many people as he could, he did take the lives of 10 people, including his own, and then 35 people were also injured and taken to area hospitals. But again, right now, this foot traffic is picking up, obviously, because it's almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and people are here. There's so many people in town trying to enjoy their New Year's Eve, trying to enjoy their New Year's Day, and we have the Sugar Bowl, a college football game, happening today. Obviously, this tragedy is the most important thing right now. A football game is probably the least of many people's concerns, especially if they stayed somewhere around the French Quarter last night and were out here when all this went down. At the same time, it's a sea of red and green here. You have Notre Dame fans, you have Georgia fans. We know that a Georgia student was one of those who was injured last night, and there's a game that's supposed to happen tonight, and at this point, we have not been told that that is still not the case. As far as we know, the game is still going to happen, but if we learn more, of course, we'll update you as soon as we can. But a lot of people here, it's been a mixed bag. It's been people saying, no, we want to go anyway. We want to go to this game. We came here to enjoy it, and they don't want something like this to take away from the fact that they're here to enjoy this tradition, this New Year's Eve, a New Year's Day, and then Sugar Bowl tradition. And there are others who voiced that they'd like to know that there's extra safety precautions at this game tonight because that's going to be key. And when you have so many resources put here, which they're going to be out here for some time, and Bourbon Street's probably going to be closed for some time as well, all those resources put to this, is there going to be enough resources to make sure that the game itself is safe and that the people who go there are safe? So that's something we've been listening to. And I'll step out real quick just so you can see one more time behind me. All the coroner vans that were out here for many, many, many hours are now back. At last check, along with a fire truck, they're all still down. Yeah, they're all still down a couple of blocks down Bourbon Street, the coroner vans, because even up to this point, and it may not be the case now, it's hard to say, but for hours and hours after, there were still victims' bodies in that crime scene with tarps over them, people who were killed from this person who, for whatever reason, decided to take human life and plow through a crowd of people and also then fire guns at people and at officers before getting killed himself by law enforcement. And so we have learned a little bit about that victim, as you guys have reported, Rob, and I'll send it back to you now. But this is still not going to change anytime soon. And for people who are walking around here, don't try to go through. We've seen a couple people get turned around here who were walking in the middle of the neutral ground and had to get stopped by police. The yellow tape's here for a reason, folks. There's just no reason to make their jobs any harder.
All right, very good point there. Josh, thanks for your reports this morning. A lot of great information there. We've seen multiple city leaders walking into NOPD headquarters this morning. We saw Mayor Cantrell flanked by armed officers who were carrying long rifles on either side of her as she walked into police headquarters at the DXC Technology Building across from the Dome on Poydras Street. We also saw Jason Williams there. Troy Carter was there as well. Multiple stakeholders from the area, as well as Sheriff Susan Hudson.
Yes, and we have sound from her. Take a listen.
Reassure fans, tourists, locals can feel safe as we get closer to kickoff for the Sugar Bowl. But moving forward, how can we reassure people feel safe?
Well, first of all, I just want to send my heartfelt condolences out to everybody affected by this. We had officers shot, we had people killed. It's just gut-wrenching for our city. Last night I was out just at a church in prayer about a great 2025, and then we have people coming into our community trying to make us feel unsafe and trying to hurt this amazing city. And we're not going to let that happen. We're going to stand strong and together. I was in here in meetings with about every law enforcement agency, every city agency, parish, state, all coming together to make sure we take care of this, to make sure that this investigation is complete, that we get all the folks responsible for it, and that we keep our city safe. So we're working on all that. Know that every resource is available right now. We also want folks to know that, because I've gotten had people reach out to me about they're looking for their loved ones. They could be at a number of area hospitals. We put out on our social media about our victims unit, where family members can reach out to get resources and to find out information. And if you can't find your loved one at that particular hospital, reach out so we can try and help you find out where they're at. So we want to make sure people can check on their people and make sure their folks are safe. Gut-wrenching. I woke up to this morning. I've got deputies in the quarter. We had our booking bus in the quarter, so I'm reaching out trying to find out how's our team. is everybody safe? We had officers respond to that. We got to check on them, make sure they're all right. So right now I'm in a couple of different modes. Number one, making sure we're part of the process for keeping things safe. And number two, making sure all of our team is all right and we're ready.
New Orleans knows how to prepare for major events with large crowds of people. We know the bollards weren't working under repair currently. How come there wasn't a plan B in place to make sure that something like this wasn't going to happen?
Well, so all questions about the investigation have to go to the FBI and the city as they're conducting that investigation. We're here to support the policing function moving forward, make sure, whatever happens with the game, whatever happens with folks who are here in our city, we've got a lot of people here, making sure that we take care of that. All questions about the investigation need to go through the FBI and the city.
How is the Sheriff's
whatever
Department?
happens with the game, do you expect it to happen?
I'm not sure. And again, that's not my call. Again, my call is to be here to support all our law enforcement, all our first responders, and to help support this community and keep it safe.
How is the Sheriff's Department moving forward with ensuring safety?
Yeah, we're a part of all these discussions. Number one, making sure we have assets available. So, for instance, if they need more deputies, if they need any resources from us, we have a number of resources. As you know, the Sheriff's Department is a mini city. So if we need extra cars out on the street or something of that nature, we're just making sure that we are a part of that, helping secure the city that we love so much. And I want this community also to know that Sheriff's Department from all over the state, the Sheriff's Association have reached out and promised help and support if we need that. But we have a lot of sheriffs right around us who are helping as well, and they were in there too talking about it. So again, public safety is job number one right now.
Can you talk to the unified command right now? We saw, like you said, JPSO parked out here. There's, I think, like every single type of law enforcement agency I've seen in the past hour.
Yeah, and we want our community to know that. We've come together, state, federal, local, our surrounding parishes, all the sheriffs in the state have offered resources if we need those. So we're ready to deal with this issue, keep people safe, and whatever happens moving forward. We have got a big year planned, right? And we're going from Sugar Bowl to Super Bowl to Mardi Gras. So we're the planning, looking at what we're going to do, but most importantly, coming together. And that's what we're doing.
Is the city being swept for anything, like other explosive devices, from your understanding, anything like that?
Well, again, all questions about the investigation or that response need to go through the FBI and the New Orleans Police Department. They'll know what they're able to release and what they're not. And again, we're supporting them 100%.
Anyone in your command injured from this morning's?
Not injured, but affected, right? Right. It was absolute chaos when that man went through there and did what he did. And so, that affects everybody. The first responders, that affects them as well. And seeing what happened down there, So job number one, securing the city. Job number two, taking care of our team.
Can you talk to what that looks like? This has impacted the whole entire city, and first responders really are right there. They're seeing this carnage. What does that look like for you as the sheriff, as the head of this department, to make sure mentally and emotionally that your people are okay?
I got to take care of my team. I reached out to all of them personally. They're up all night, right? Some of them are trying to get some sleep right now because they were up all night and just exhausted trying to keep the community safe. But I checked in with all of them, right? I want them to know their sheriff cares and that I'm supporting them 100%. This is not easy work, right? And seeing this type of thing go down can be tough. I got to support them 100%, and that's what I want this community to know. I'm doing that. I want the men and women of this department to know I'm doing that. Reaching out to all of them. I've already reached out to them all just to let them know I'm here. When they're able to talk, I'm going to do that as well. I got to check on them personally.
What are the next few days going to look like for you and for the city?
Being on ready. We have our chiefs here, majors here, all of our assets, whether those are our investigative services, those are our patrolling functions, those are our reserves who are out in the streets every day for the city, making sure we have that, any other assets we may need to support, equipment we may need to support. We're pledging to give 100%.
Let's talk about tonight after the game. Celebrations, fans celebrating the win. What's that going to look like for your team out tonight patrolling or keeping people safe?
Vigilance, right? We got to be keeping a lookout about what's going on, making sure we're safe first, that we are prepared, safe, We got all our safety equipment, and we're being very vigilant about what's going on. And I know our team will do that.
Any message to fans, people just out and about and here for this big event?
Look, everybody in this unified command here loves the city. We love the people of the city. We love what it represents to this community and to this country. And people from all over the world come here. We love the city. We're here to protect the city. We're putting everything at our disposal to do that. And we want our community to know that, and all our visitors here as well.
My last question, at least for me, obviously there's a lot of talk about tourists and visitors, but there's a lot of people here home, people who this is their home, and they're tired of being resilient. This is really hurting them. What do you say to people who love this city because they're born and raised here?
Yeah, we would say, I want my messages to both our community, right? Because this culture is what makes people want to come here, and it's the people of the city that drive that culture. And yeah, we're tired of being resilient, but this is the way the world is. We did not create this, but this is the way the world is. People extremists want to send a message in a horrible way, and this is the way the world is. That doesn't mean we're going to give in to them, and we are going to fight back with everything we have.
All right, that was Sheriff Susan Hudson there outside of NOPD headquarters just minutes ago. Olivia Vidal is there now. We understand that that press conference, we do expect it to happen. It was called for about 1 o'clock. It may not happen right at 1 o'clock, but Olivia and our photographer Cole are there in the building now, so they're beginning that process of moving people up to the press conference room. So we should see that hopefully within the next several minutes. We'll be able to get some additional information from the FBI and the city as well.
And we do have crews, Rob, everywhere right now covering different aspects of this case, of this situation. And Sabrina Wilson, she is in front of UMC. Again, we are learning more details about some of the victims. Like we said, a University of Georgia student that was critically injured. We are learning little bits and pieces. So Sabrina, what's the latest from where you are? What do you know?
We're told that there's lots of angst inside of University Medical Center related to the attack hours earlier in the French Quarter. Now, this attack, which even the White House agrees is being investigated as a terrorist attack, is causing broad distress beyond the families who already know that their loved ones were impacted. During my last live shot, New Orleans City Council President Helena Moreno told me she came here to UMC to check on someone who knew someone who was in the French Quarter but was missing. And she said, after being in that location, in the hospital where people with such questions are being allowed to go, that there were other families here at UMC looking for their loved ones who were in the area of the attack. Now, we know from the NOPD that 10 people were killed during the attack, and the FBI says the suspect had an ISIS flag in his pickup truck. Of course, there are lots of questions, and one of them is why the suspect targeted New Orleans is one of those big questions. Moreno says it's a question the FBI needs to delve into. Earlier, the NOPD said the majority of the people who were injured during the attack on Bourbon Street were brought here to UMC. No big guesswork about that, because this is a level 1 trauma center in New Orleans with experienced staff. This is where most shooting victims in the city are brought. It's the place where the President of the United States would be brought if something were to go wrong with him during a visit in New Orleans. But of course, this is a very sad day, and of course, law enforcement officials and units have been coming in and out of here all day. We do know that 2 NOPD officers were shot during this terrorist attack, and now people around the world are glued to their devices and media outlets as the investigation continues into this suspected terrorist attack that unfolded on the first day of 2025. Reporting from UMC, I'm Sabrina Wilson. Back to you.
All right, Sabrina, thank you very much. And I know we do have a scene. We've been following a scene at Mandeville Street. That's in the St. Roch neighborhood, where officials there are looking into if this could be connected to what happened on Bourbon Street and Canal. We're going to take you live to Rob Masson right now.
Yeah, hey, Lauren, still a very active scene out here in the 1200 block of Mandeville Street. As you can see behind me, a New Orleans fire unit has been blocking the street down there for 3 or 4 hours now. We have also seen a large federal presence here as well, including FBI and ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. They've been bringing dogs through here about every half hour or so to sniff around, we assume, for an explosive device. It all started around 6:30 this morning when we understand, hearing from neighbors, that there was a small fire inside of the house in the 1200 block of Mandeville Street that appears to be an Airbnb. Several hours later, about 2 hours later, police went knocking on doors within about a 3 or 4 block perimeter here, asking people to leave the area as this massive presence of local, state, and federal officers moved into the area. We could hear sirens off in the background, but they've got about a 3-block area of Mandeville Street shut down here, and we understand they are investigating to see if there is a possible link to the terror suspect who killed and injured so many on Bourbon Street earlier today. But very little information coming out here. NOPD SWAT unit is on the scene. We're told whatever information is going to come out of that news conference that we're waiting on right now about a possible link of perhaps the suspect was staying here. It has been under construction, and people have not been able to park there for several months now, from what we understand. But FBI continues to remain on the scene. We see them a block away. We're being kept a block away. And those bomb-sniffing dogs have been quite active in this neighborhood, as well as some what appears to be Homeland Security aircraft flying overhead for the better part of 2 or 3 hours here in the 1200 block of Mandeville Street. So people are being told to stay inside their homes. A lot of people can't get back to their homes if they're in the immediate area. We see people in night clothes out here who have been inconvenienced, and some local residents have opened their doors to kind of take people in and keep them warm while this scene remains cordoned off here in the 1200 block of Mandeville Street. But hoping to learn more from the news conference when federal authorities will be providing more information about exactly what is transpiring here, but the scene remains shut down. Lauren, back to you.
All right, Rob, thank you very much. And again, they're trying to figure out where the Mandeville Street scene plays into this whole situation right now.
And we're just learning right now, breaking news at this hour, the Sugar Bowl has been postponed for at least 24 hours. It's according to Councilman Joe Giarrusso. We're just getting that in here. So the Sugar Bowl will be postponed. It will not happen tonight. Postponed 24 hours, now set to happen on January 2nd. So an important bit of information. I know a lot of you right now watching, maybe from out of town, here for the Sugar Bowl, whether you're from Georgia or Notre Dame. Unfortunately, that game has been postponed, but clearly that effort is done through a level of safety and ensuring that they can handle everything. We've been talking about it throughout the morning, the fact that you've got police officers who are already working overtime because it's a holiday and a big event situation, and now this is an all hands on deck situation.
All hands on deck.
And then to imagine to have to staff that football game as well in that process would be a daunting task, to say the least. So,
and again, knowing that these officers, you have multiple agencies coming together working on this. I know the FBI is the lead here, but NOPD stretched very, very thin right now. And I think in this situation, we were waiting to see if it was going to be postponed. It will be postponed. You did see that a student, at least we know one student, was critically injured, a Georgia student. And so there's just a lot that goes into what's happening right now. We don't know many details about the victims. We're getting little bits and pieces as we go, but we are still waiting on this press conference that was supposed to start at 1 p.m., but it looks like from what we see on our cameras, they're getting ready. So we will bring that to you as soon
it could be momentarily now, right? So we'll continue to follow that situation. Let's get to a statement from the NFL that they've released here. This says, we are deeply saddened by the news of the devastating incident in New Orleans. Our thoughts are with the victims, the New Orleans community, and all those affected. We are confident attendees will have a safe and enjoyable Super Bowl experience.
And
so that's obviously a statement because the Super Bowl will be happening here in a couple of months.
And Rob, I think that's what a lot of people are wondering, because a situation like this, the city was already going to be have national eyes on it, right, for the Super Bowl. And obviously Mardi Gras is always a big deal here, but the Super Bowl specifically, and how the NOPD was going to handle security with that, and they were getting everything in place. And we are seeing that even their response last night, and from the former special agent that we spoke to earlier, said that they did what they could do with what they had, and their response was what would be expected in a situation like that.
Right, and you know, the big question I think that still remains is what happened with these bollards.
Yeah.
Because if you want to say that they did what they could, I mean, you had Troy Carter saying that they could have moved in a dump truck or a fire truck to work as a blockade, knowing that they couldn't actually block the street from something like that. Is that something that was overlooked? Clearly they were preparing the bollards to try to have them ready in time for the Super Bowl. But this is an effort that, you know, definitely needed that situation. And he says himself, you know, U.S. Congressman says those bollards were up and working like they were made to do. There's no way that truck would have been able to get around them.
And I think the questions, especially with those bollards, who is responsible for making sure that something like that is happening? Like, who would be responsible for if a dump truck needed to get moved in? Like, what was the process of that? Again, a lot of questions. We still have a lot of questions right now when it comes to this situation. But again, we will get more information as we get this presser up for you. Again, we are just waiting for this, but we will give you just an update on the suspect right now, who is pronounced dead. He is dead. Right now, we know that this is a Texas man. He's 42 years old, and his name is Shamsud Din Jabbar. Again, the FBI did release information about saying that he had an ISIS flag in his car, trying to figure out if there's any affiliations there. Again, a lot of questions right now.
It looks like we've got this press conference. Let's go ahead and head out now to police headquarters and listen in.
The FBI and our partners are working diligently to investigate and find answers on behalf of the victims, the citizens and residents of Louisiana, and everyone visiting the city. I'm going to provide you some facts and information about what we do know. I know that all of you will have questions, and we will try to provide some answers. But this is an ongoing investigation that's rapidly evolving. So there are some questions I will be unable to answer at this time. The FBI is the lead investigative agency, and we're investigating this as an attack of terrorism along with our partners. Today at approximately 3:15 a.m. Central Standard Time, an individual drove a pickup truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, killing at least 10 individuals and injuring dozens more. After hitting the crowd, he exited the vehicle and fired upon local law enforcement. Law enforcement returned fire, and the subject was pronounced deceased at the scene. 2 law enforcement officers were injured and transported to local hospitals. The subject has been identified as 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar, a U.S.-born citizen from Texas. He was driving a Ford pickup truck, which appears to be rented, and we are working to confirm how the subject came in possession of this vehicle. An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organizations. Weapons and potential improvised explosive devices, IEDs, were located in the subject's vehicle. Other potential IEDs were also located in the French Quarter. As of now, 2 IEDs have been found and rendered safe. The FBI's agent bomb technology, as our local law enforcement partners, have been working to determine if any of these devices are viable, and they will work to render those devices safe. The FBI, we are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism.
We are having audio issues right now, but that is the FBI giving us an update on what we had told you earlier about that suspect. Again, 42-year-old Shamsud Din Jabbar. They are just giving you that same information that we gave you earlier from The statement that was
All right, it
released.
looks like we're getting our mic up there. For some reason, it appears that they weren't allowing us to put a mic up there. So here you go. Take a listen.
Video or pictures to provide it to the FBI. We have set up a digital tip line as well as our 1-800 number, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Please provide us with any information that can assist us in this investigation. Once again, thank you for your patience and assistance. For an updated statements or information, please check the FBI's website and our social media accounts. I will now turn over to Mayor Cantrell. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agent Duncan, for your leadership and the full support of the FBI. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest condolences to the families and loved ones that were impacted by this tragedy on Bourbon Street and in the heart of the city of New Orleans. And I know that the entire New Orleans City Council grieves along right with me, no doubt about that, and our people and our families. My priority will continue to be to ensure that victims that remain on Bourbon Street now will be serviced and removed as soon as possible. But as stated, the FBI is in charge of this investigation and are doing everything necessary to make this happen. I also want to acknowledge hearing from President Biden, all of our federal partners, but most importantly, calling Governor Landry this morning, responded with haste. And we do say thank you. And of course, a demonstration of a unified support is right here in this room. That's how we collectively responded to this tragedy in the city of New Orleans. The mission now is to facilitate, support, and coordinate safety procedures to keep our residents and our visitors safe. I've gone to the hospital along with Chief Kirkpatrick to visit our police officers, and considering their injuries, they're doing well. As I mentioned, this investigation is ongoing, and the FBI remains the lead in the investigation. It is an active crime scene as well. We are committed, no doubt, to uncovering all details surrounding this tragedy. And we're taking every necessary step to put even more safety procedures in place, especially given the nature of the investigation. I'm going to ask people to do not go around our secured area if there is no essential need to do so. It matters, and again, it is an active crime scene. I also want you all to know that the Greater New Orleans Foundation has set up a fund to assist victims, and that information will be provided to you. Thank you, Ganoff. Again, I want to thank this unified team. We're leaning in. We will be relentless, and we will do everything that it takes to render real justice. This team will. I want to also just thank our citizens for your heartfelt prayers. New Orleans is a world-class city, and I can say that I've heard from world leaders all this morning and up until now, in addition to my brother and sister mayors across this country. They're calling, they're responding, and they're standing with the city of New Orleans. And what they always say and want me to reiterate, they understand the resilience of this community. And we're strong in that regard, and I will say second to none. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our governor, and as I mentioned, who has not wavered any in leaning in, providing the necessary support, and standing right here with me, and I say thank you, Governor. And I know the First Lady is standing with us as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Again, I want to thank the Mayor. Since about 3:45 this morning, when she called me, we have all been working just around the clock to both secure the city and to solve this act. Again, I want to reiterate that our prayers go out with all of those who have been affected by this tragedy. I want to thank our law enforcement officers. I want to thank our medical personnel. I want to thank our first responders. And most importantly, I want to thank the two New Orleans police officers who not only laid their life on the line, but were able to eliminate the threat this morning. Let me say, we have made public safety a state priority from day one. And I think that if you look around me today, right now, and you look at the people who are standing around, that is their commitment as well. We intend to be transparent in assessing any defects that may have existed in the system so that we can address them. It's the only way to ensure that any mistakes that were made are corrected. Specifically, we have been trying and working very diligently to address security concerns in preparation for the Super Bowl since October. And it's interesting because, ironically, in preparation for the Super Bowl, I had intended to issue an emergency declaration tomorrow so that we could bring all of our federal, state, and local agencies to bear in preparation for the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras. But because of the events today, I have amended that emergency declaration and issued it today. So again, that declaration will allow our federal, state, and local partners to bring all of the resources necessary to get this city safe. In light of that executive order, I have also ordered the mobilization of a military police company. I've asked General Freelou to mobilize a military police company to assist both New Orleans Police and LSP and the FBI. It is important for our citizens and guests of this state to know that we are doing everything we can to secure their safety in this city. We want to make it clear the Superdome and the surrounding area is safe. But I've always said that the safety of this entire city is something that is always paramount to me. With that, I would like to turn it over to Jeff with the Super Bowl. Jeff Dunley.
Good afternoon. Obviously, we wish we weren't here for this reason today. The Sugar Bowl Committee has a 90-year history of being a good corporate citizen for the city of New Orleans, and that's why this tragedy hurts us as much as anybody right now. So our condolences, thoughts, and prayers go out to the victims and their families as we all work through this. Of course, anytime we have a major event in the city of New Orleans, public safety is paramount, and we have full faith and confidence in the governor and the mayor and all the assets, the federal, state, and local resources that they've applied to this event so that we can ultimately bring those responsible to justice and carry on with the major events that we have in front of us. Speaking of which, we were scheduled this evening to have a CFP quarterfinal played in the Superdome at 7:45. We have been in consultation with ESPN, with the College Football Playoff, with the Southeastern Conference, with the University of Georgia, with Notre Dame, all parties, and all agree that it's in the best interest of everybody and public safety that we postpone the game for 24 hours. Work is fast about to set up a safe and efficient and fun environment for tomorrow night. There'll be more details on that in the coming hours, but for now, that's the plan, that we're going to move forward and play the game. And again, we reiterate our thanks to everyone up here for the important work they're doing. We live in the fun and games world with what we do, but we certainly recognize the importance of this, and we're going to support it 100%. So thank you.
I'd like to bring up Senator Kennedy.
I wish I understood better why bad things happen to good people. If I make it to heaven, I'm going to ask. For those people who don't believe in objective evil, all you have to do is look at what happened in our city early this morning. I am, if this doesn't trigger the gag reflex of every American, every fair-minded American, I'll be very surprised. I'm here because these are my people. I'm here because these are my people's friends. I'm here because there are a lot of Louisianians that are scared tonight. I don't want them to be. There's a lot of information going around. Some of it is actually true. Some of it isn't. The federal government is now in charge of this investigation. By that I mean the White House, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice. I have not talked to the FBI. Maybe they've talked to my staff. I don't know. I did talk to the Secretary of Homeland Security a little while ago. And I told him that with all the respect I could muster, that we expect to put the full force and resources of the federal government behind this investigation. Our state troopers, our local police departments, our sheriffs, we've got many sheriffs here today, have been terrific so far. The federal government is cooperating with them. I hope that will continue. Here's what I want to ask from the federal government. Catch these people. Catch these people. And then tell the American people the truth. Now, I don't want you to tell us yet anything that's going to interfere with your investigation. And there are things that I've been told that I think are true that I'm not sharing with you today because it could interfere with their investigation. But after we get to the bottom of this, they need to tell the American people the truth, and the people of New Orleans the truth, and the people of America the truth. I think the mayor and the governor are very wise to postpone this ball game for 24 hours. There's just too much stuff we don't know, and it's just not worth it. But I guess my final point is, I will promise you this: I will, when it is appropriate and this investigation is complete, you will find out what happened and who was responsible. Or I will raise fresh hell. And I will chase those in the federal government who are responsible for telling us what happened, like they stole Christmas.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Congressman Carter, I think.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Thank you to all of our law enforcement agents for doing a yeoman's job, for stepping up at a time when we needed you most, for employing the resources of all of our partners. This is all hands on deck, from the White House all the way down. I've been in communication with the White House since early this morning, Secretary Mayorkas, leaders in all of our federal, local, and state agencies. The President has made it very clear that he intends to bring every resource to bear to not only tell the truth, but to provide the resources to bring these cowards to justice. I want to personally thank the men and women in uniform who put their lives on the line to protect our citizens and our visitors. To our mayor and our governor for acting expeditiously and bringing us all together. To our sheriffs from the surrounding areas who have been Johnny on the spot, recognizing that if it happens in New Orleans, it can happen anywhere. We don't have the luxury of being myopic. In this community, we work together. We don't point fingers. We don't blame. We go after the bad guys. Let it be clear. that the full faith and credit of the United States and every agency therein is on the ground, working. And for those who may have played a role in this horrific act of cowardice, we will find you. We will bring you to justice. New Orleans is a place that heralds its ability to protect its citizens, that heralds its ability to manage major events, Super Bowls, Sugar Bowls, Mardi Gras, Jazz Fest, Essence Festival. You name it, no one does it better than law enforcement in New Orleans and in the surrounding area. Kudos to those 2 officers who've been wounded. Our hearts go out to those who lost loved ones. Our hearts go out to those who are wounded and on the mend in the hospital. Citizens, now is the time to stay calm, to be vigilant. This is not a time to come out to sightsee. Listen to your federal, local, state officials. Be vigilant. If you saw something, say something. If you know something, tell someone. There are tip lines, there's information available. Please, all hands on deck. Rest assured that the decision that was made to postpone the game was not done lightly. It was done with one single thing in mind: public safety. Making sure that the citizens and visitors of this great city, not only for this event, but for every event you come to in Louisiana, that you will be safe. And we will use every resource possible, as the governor has said, as the mayor has said, and every law enforcement agent here has said. Our energy, our commitment will be to make sure that you are safe now and for every event in the future. God bless you, and let's stay strong.
Thank you, Congressman. Attorney General.
I first want to extend my sincerest condolences to the families of the victims. Parents got a phone call early this morning, that no parent ever wants to receive. And as a parent of children who come to New Orleans and spend time here, I know that that is just something that, you know, we hold our breath sometimes till they're home safe, and some people did not come home safe. And we also have some people who are fighting for their lives right now in the hospital. So I'd ask everyone to pray for them. They need our support and they need our prayers. This was a heinous act, a heinous, cowardly act, and we will find them and we will bring them to justice. My office will be providing both investigative and prosecutorial support to the City of New Orleans, to the District Attorney, Jason Williams in New Orleans, as I have done for months. We will continue to do that. We will provide the governor with whatever support that he needs, and the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, whatever support that they need. I'll be here to help. I will be here to stand with the City of New Orleans. We will bring them to justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Governor and Madam Mayor. For those who do not know me, my name is Ann Kirkpatrick. I'm the Chief of Police of New Orleans. My official title is Superintendent, but my role is as Chief of Police. You know, you've heard some of the details today, and over the last 24 hours, we had approximately 400 officers in the French Quarter. And as we know, this is not just an act of terrorism. This is evil. And when we face evil, we have a choice. We can run in fear, or we can indeed stand in strength. In a time of crisis, people are looking for leadership. You are looking at the leadership. And I promise you, as the Chief of Police of this city has been tried by fire before. But fire purifies. Fire makes things stronger. We have a plan. We know what to do. We are going to get these people. There is a path forward. Very pleased that we will be back to having a wonderful game tomorrow night. New Orleans police have proven their ability to make the city safer. Just 2 years ago, we were the murder capital of America. Today, from that time 2 years ago, we have driven our murder rate more than 50% down. So we have a track record. But this is different because it's terrorism. Now, I want to thank all of our law enforcement partners. You're fabulous, and we appreciate the partnership. But last night, 3 of our officers engaged this terrorist who shot at them. 3 of the officers returned fire. Those officers did not run in fear. I liked what the mayor said this morning. New Orleans police and all law enforcement is built. We are built for dealing with evil, with things that would cause others to be in fear, but instead our officers, and last night NOPD particular, stood strong. They did not run. They did kill the terrorist. We have 2 officers indeed who received gunfire. They will be okay. We have personally gone to see them. But this is leadership for you. And I promise, as the chief of police of this fantastic city, that I will be strong and firm and fearless. Thank you.
Thank you. In wrapping it up, I want to just close with a couple of things. I want to thank Senator Kennedy and Congressman Carter. I want to thank again all of our law enforcement officers out there. I want the families of the victims to know that I will be issuing an executive order that tomorrow, when Notre Dame plays Georgia, every flag of every state building in this state is going to be at half-mast. In remembrance of them, but remembering something else. That fear in this state is a liar. And these folks right here are going to make sure that justice is served. And for the citizens out there that were thinking, well, man, do I really want to go to the Sugar Bowl tomorrow? I tell you one thing, your governor's going to be there. That is proof, believe you me, that that facility in this city is safer today than it was yesterday. And as we come to additional events in this city, I know in speaking with Senator Kennedy and Congressman Carter, and FBI acting director, and the incoming administration, that they are going to ensure that this city has the resources necessary to protect our citizens and our guests. And so with that, we'll take some questions.
All right, if you could, we'll start over here with CBS. Katie, we'll work our way across the room. If I miss you, just give me a holler. I may not see you. Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, sir. Katie Weiss with CBS News. I mean, I think this has been a really tough day for a lot of people, but at this point, we're hearing that the death toll, according to some FBI sources, has gone up to 15. Is this true?
Who wants to answer that? Yeah.
I can speak to it, because unless you have a final number. We do not have a final number. We know that we have confirmed 10, but we did have people who had been transported who were in critical condition. And so I do not know that, but I can confirm 10.
And one quick follow-up question, if I may. We know that there have been some local records in Texas about a misdemeanor background on this suspect. Any signs or warnings ahead of time about this person or their plans for what happened this morning?
Because that is the investigation part, I will give the FBI.
At this time, we cannot go into details about the subject's history. What I can tell you, the person was an Army veteran. We believe he was honorary discharge, but we're working through this process, figuring out all this information. The goal with the FBI is providing you with the most accurate and complete information. So once that information is confirmed, we'll make sure we push that out. Thank you.
Ariel?
At this time, do you know exactly, as far as the victims, how many are from here in Louisiana versus out of state, and their ages maybe?
At this time, I can't go into details about all the victims. We want to make sure that first that the family is notified appropriately before we put any information out there. So once the families are all notified, then we'll go ahead and release a statement to everyone.
And I would ask the press, in relation to the victims and those that are in hospitals, if we could just refrain from worrying about them so their loved ones can take care of them, and the medical personnel that are trying to get them out of the hospital can do so. And as information becomes available, but we want to respect the privacy of those who are still either fighting for their lives or being cared for. Thank you.
A follow-up, if I may.
Go ahead.
You guys mentioned accomplices. You don't think that the suspect acted alone. About how many more suspects are you guys looking into at this point?
It's a range of suspects, and right now with the FBI, we do not want to rule anything out, so that's why we're asking if anyone has had any interaction with the deceased subject Jabbar in the last 72 hours, provide us with this information. You can provide us that information through 1-800-CALL-FBI or our digital tips line, which is available on our social media website, as well as the big FBI website.
Can I say something right there? Tell me who you're with.
WDSU.
WDSU. Okay, and CBS.
NBC's over here on the right.
Oh, that's an unusual position.
I don't get it.
You wouldn't. Look, the FBI is not going to be able to answer those questions. Okay, they will eventually. I promise you. Okay, once the FBI has a chance to investigate all this, along working with state police, working with Homeland Security, working with the city of New Orleans, they're going to tell you what happened. I can promise you that. Or I'm going to raise fresh hell. But right now, they're in the process of trying to catch the other bad guys. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt for a while.
26.
Yeah, I had a question about the victims. I know there was obviously gunfire exchange, so I guess how many victims were shot, and then how many were injured?
Look, again, let me reiterate both Special Agent Duncan and Senator Kennedy. There's a lot of, I get that y'all want to know minute details. What we don't want to do is impede this investigation or spend any time talking about things that don't get us closer to hunting these folks down and securing the city. And so at a particular point in time, we will release as much information as we can. But at this time, in relation to the investigation, I would ask y'all to refrain from those.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if we're going to just have more of the same as the governor just said, we're going to provide that information, but we're going to wrap the press conference now.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Let me finish. You weren't listening. If all of the questions are more of the same, what the governor just said in position, we won't be doing that to provide that information. And if you have a quick, different question, then let's do that quickly and move on. Okay.
My question. Hold on. That's in an orderly fashion.
You say
there are multiple.
Ma'am.
Hold on, sir. Hold on. Then who was next? We had over here.
Hi, Rachel Wolf from the Wall Street Journal. You said you are confident there are multiple suspects involved. What makes you confident in that?
Well, like, why would we tell you that? Again, that's, I mean, look, again, we want to answer pertinent questions. But anything that would lead to impeding or endangering this investigation is not going to be said, okay? And we will, as information unfolds, this is a very fluid process. And remember something, too. We're doing two things. We're hunting some bad people down, and we're securing the city, too. We're getting ready for a Sugar Bowl tomorrow. So if y'all would, again, if you have questions regarding Sugar Bowl, the safety of the city, or something to that effect, we're happy to answer.
There's over here.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Usually in parts of the French Quarter, specifically in parts of Bourbon Street, there are bollards. We're hearing that some of those may have been down because of repairs. Can you speak to that, and maybe was there any backup option of putting a truck there or an NOPD car there?
Well, let me tell you, yeah, one, I'm going to let the mayor answer. I want you to know that's one of the first things I thought of this morning when the mayor called me. Okay? And I will tell you that whatever the problem was is going to be solved.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor, and thank you for the question. I do understand that it's been on your radar since this morning. As it relates to the bollards on Bourbon Street, over 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, the city of New Orleans implemented an infrastructure project placing bollards on Bourbon Street. Shortly thereafter, the malfunctions of those bollards ensued from Mardi Gras beads on down. But the New Orleans Police Department, of course, deemed them inefficient because they did not operate the way that they were intended to do. Because the city of New Orleans is hosting Super Bowl this year, it gave the city of New Orleans an opportunity to go further and deeper with infrastructure improvements, as we've been talking about. So as a result of that, we were able to build in bollard replacement into our Super Bowl infrastructure package. And because of that, the city of New Orleans has moved forward with that infrastructure that is nearing completion. Bollards were not up because they are near completion, with the expectation of being completed, of course, by Super Bowl, way before Super Bowl. But that is the reason. Now, the New Orleans Police Department and Chief, you can speak to the deployment to respond to our needs and existing conditions.
All right, so we have been aware of the bollard situation for a long time, and we did indeed harden those target areas where the bollards are. We have patrol cars out there as a hard target, as well as with barriers. Now, I want to share with y'all, if you did not know, that this particular terrorist drove around onto the sidewalk and got around the hard target, where he did have a car there, we had barriers there, we had officers there, and they still got around. Now, the wedges that you see out there as well, we knew that that had malfunction problems. And I want you to understand, let's say we put the wedge up and it got stuck. There is no way that ambulance could get in or out, people couldn't get in and out, so we knew that these were malfunction. So we did indeed have a plan, but the terrorist defeated it.
A follow-up, if I may.
Let me just say this. We recognize we got a problem right here, right? We're going to fix it. It is going to be a top priority as we go into the Super Bowl in Mardi Gras. And the solution that we're going to come up with is going to be a permanent one. It's going to be placed into the standard operating procedure of having major events and securing that quarter.
A follow-up, if I may. Obviously, Sugar Bowl postponed till tomorrow, but I'm sure after that game, a lot of people are going to want to celebrate. Are there plans to keep Bourbon Street closed? What does that look like?
So right now, Bourbon Street is an active crime scene, and the FBI is in charge of it. When they clear it, and it does not become an active crime scene anymore, we're going to open it up.
Potentially.
Olivia Dunn with Fox 8. Can we ask about this military police presence that you want to call it? Is this a private security like Blackwater? Also, would that be a first that a private security firm is mobilized to supplement local and state law enforcement?
No. We're not. This is our National Guard. These are our citizens that we're bringing in. It's a military police company that we recognize we need some more resources. We need some more boots on the ground because, again, what we're doing now is twofold. We've got an active investigation and we've got enhanced security. Before this event, we were just enhancing and working on security. So we brought some additional resources.
Jesse Kirsch with NBC News. Thank you for holding this press briefing. I just want to clarify something first. You were just talking about bollards that are being repaired. Talk about a lift gate that are replaced and then a lift gate that's not been working. Was there a vehicle in place of that lift gate last night? Were there things in place of those bollards which are being repaired?
Sure, the chief spoke to the plan in place, and that is yes.
That was indeed.
So anything that is currently in the midst of being repaired had a backup replacement?
It had vehicles and officers were there where all of those ballasts have been. We had that. We knew. So we did have it. And like I said, in this particular case, terrorists just went all the way around up onto the sidewalk.
And for the lift gate, what about for the lift gate? Was there a vehicle like backing in and out to block that lift gate area, or was that just down and open? 'Cause that's what we've heard from witnesses.
Chief, Captain. The reason I'm calling the captain, he's the captain over that district, and that is a question I'm going to let him address for you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Captain LaJean Roberts of the 8th District. Yes, we did have a vehicle strategically placed right in front of the wedge, preventing access onto the roadway.
And in terms of the framework of security that was already in place on Bourbon Street, I know this is an ongoing project of improvement, but with how that was all aligned, was someone getting up on a sidewalk considered impossible or nearly impossible, or was this not something you expected you would have to account for?
If, of course, it wasn't something we expected to account for. The bollards they're actually wedges. They're strategically placed 5 locations throughout the French Quarter on the roadway. This particular terrorist drove onto the sidewalk behind the police car to gain access to the 100 block of Bourbon Street.
So if you're worried about someone ever driving down Bourbon Street, why weren't you worried about someone driving up the sidewalk in the same way, or at least bracing for it in the same way for all these years?
All right, look. We could go on what ifs forever. This is evil. And that guy could have easily gone down the sidewalk of Canal Street, where there were a ton of pedestrians on there as well.
And there are
bollards that's right.
on some
No, right.
sidewalks, so that's, I'm
Right.
just asking
Hold
why.
on a second. We're gonna move on. Chelsea, go ahead.
Just want you to know, however, we recognize, I said earlier, that where there are defects in this system, we are going to be transparent, and we are going to address them with the city and make sure that we fill those gaps as best we can. Yeah.
Yeah, Chelsea Grace with Axios. I have a question just about sort of ongoing public safety today. Special Agent mentioned 2 possible IEDs. Were those in the same location? Should residents in the French Quarter or elsewhere be concerned about potential other situations?
The 2 IEDs that were in different locations, and what we've done in conjunction with our local and state partners, we've gone through and done a sweep to identify anything that we thought was suspicious, and we have not. However, as I said before, if the public sees something, please reach out to us. That way we can go through and verify that we did not miss anything. But we conducted initial sweeps, I think, starting shortly after our initial
Yes, I'm going to thank you,
press conference.
Agent. I do want to share that we have a plan, and we have been implementing that plan. One of those plans is that we have swept all of these areas. The word swept means we have put officers out there as a grid, walking down the streets, every street in the French Quarter, looking for suspicious packages, bags, ice chests, you name it. And they have been walking it as a grid. We've been doing the same thing on Poydras and all the accesses into the Superdome. Part of the safety plan is we have bomb dogs out there sweeping the Superdome and all the exterior area, and we're locking that down. That will be locked down through the game tomorrow. So that's a part of that safety plan, and we've already been implementing it.
Okay, thank you all for coming out.
Question back here for the governor on the MPs. How many MPs will be deployed to New Orleans?
Right now, there's I think it's a General Friedel 100.
100.
100, and, yeah. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
What gives you the confidence tomorrow night it'll be safe, Riot?
I'm going to be there.
Yes, but you're all saying you make improvements, sir.
Yeah, we're going to be there.
You're a bodyguard.
All right, so you have it there. That's the press conference we've been waiting for now. They spoke for about 40 minutes or so on various issues surrounding this terrorist attack on Bourbon Street with multiple people now dead, asking for clarification on the number of the death toll, whether it has risen or not. They are sticking with what they heard earlier this morning.
10 confirmed dead and 35 injured, at least right now.
The biggest takeaway from this is hearing from both Senator Kennedy and Governor Landry that there are other bad guys and they want to hunt these folks down. So that potentially would mean that, you know, this threat, is it over? That's the question. You heard a bit of that back and forth between the governor shutting people down, not answering questions. I felt that was a very pertinent question that you heard there from one of the reporters that asked about, you know, did you not consider the fact that someone could drive on a sidewalk? That these are very real questions.
They are very real questions.
You had Troy Carter earlier today say that if those bollards that were created, that were supposed to be permanent and that were put in place because of this exact type of incident, if they were in place, Troy Carter says there's no way that car would have been able to get down all the way down that Bourbon Street. And then to that end, right where it entered on Bourbon Street, where it went around a police car, they say, they're not bollards there. They start a block in. So it's one of these situations where there certainly are several questions that still need to be answered. You heard when the city or law enforcement felt like they're on their back foot, they pivoted away and spoke about something else. So we'll continue to try to figure out exactly what the situation is. Is the city safe right now as far as the Sugar Bowl is concerned? They have postponed it. It is an ongoing situation right now and clearly fluid.
Yes, very fluid. And right now we do have some expert advice and opinions right now from former Secret Service agent Don Lane. You were here listening to that presser with us. What was your biggest takeaway from that?
I thought there was a real lack of specificity here. You know, we didn't really find out anything necessarily new that I would have liked to have learned. For instance, if there are other folks involved, you know, and look, let me say this before I say that. I understand that law enforcement has to, you know, draw a line between what they release to the public in terms of an active investigation so that it doesn't compromise an investigation. That's obvious. But I'd like to learn a little bit more about, you know, how many folks are we talking about that may be involved other than this one individual? How far does this thing go, you know? What other resources are being brought in to ferret that out and find out how many folks there may be? Do they even know, you know? And so I think a little bit of a lack of specificity. I'm not sure if that's by design or because the information isn't in yet, but I sure hope we find out the answers to some of those questions.
Let me ask you this, because when you hear them talk about hunting down the bad guys, it brings to mind anyone who's watching at home that there are bad guys still out there.
Yeah.
And you hear that there was an improvised explosive device potentially in the truck, and that police had found apparently 2 other IEDs that they were trying to determine their viability. Yeah. Viability, one way or another. I mean, we've seen terrorists make a bomb with a pressure cooker.
Right.
To know that there were other potential IEDs out there, that there potentially are other bad guys out there, is that something that should concern the citizens of New Orleans and the visitors that are here right now?
Well, I think any time that there may be other terrorists out there, it's certainly everybody should be concerned about it. And that is kind of what I heard, that there are, you know, are other folks involved. You know, I think what needs to be known is, did these folks just help with this event in the periphery, maybe do some you know, intelligence on it or some surveillance and then let this guy know it was good to go in there? Or are there other sites that they're targeting actively? And is that what we're investigating? So, yeah, you know, I do think it was a good idea to shut the game down tonight in light of what I just heard, for sure.
So, and let me ask you that, because, you know, they haven't canceled it, they postponed it for 24 hours. Does that give you some reassurance that they haven't really, you know, shut down any other events today? Is there reassurance knowing that, and from your background, understanding that maybe there isn't that imminent threat?
I would certainly hope so. You know, I would hope that if law enforcement has information that there are, you know, active folks out there trying to perpetrate other acts of terrorism, that they would put you know, a total lock on the city of New Orleans. So hopefully that's not the case, and it would be unprecedented if that were the case for them to not say that and lock the city down. So yes, I feel like, you know, More than likely, there may be some other folks involved, but hopefully just for this event and on the periphery, not necessarily planning other events or other terrorist attacks.
And Don, I know that when we spoke earlier, we were talking about the timing of when this happened. It happened exactly at 3:11. That's according to the FBI and other officials. But again, looking at if they are looking for other people involved, could that have been a strategic timing? Is that a question that would have to be asked? Is that something that would have to look into further for this situation?
Sure, you would always look into the timing of why it happened at a certain time in terms of, was there a target they had in mind? One of the questions I had is why, if the person was going to do this, why not do it a little earlier when there may have been more people involved? So you just don't know at this point if, what time he showed up at the scene. Perhaps he showed up right before he perpetrated this act. We don't know yet. And those are kind of the details that we need to know before those questions can be answered.
So clearly this is something that there will be questions out there for some time, and you heard Senator Kennedy say, once the answers are ready, he'll make sure that those are said. A lot of platitudes were spoken at that podium. It's understandable. This is on a national level at this point. What should the city leaders be doing right now to not only ensure the safety of the public, but continue to ensure that this doesn't leave a stain on the city?
I think the most important thing they can do is work with their law enforcement counterparts to learn what direction this investigation is headed in. Are there other potential attacks or attackers out there? That's very important for them to know in order to secure the safety of the folks of New Orleans and to show that we are a safe city. So really close contact with law enforcement is vital. And then from that point, listening to what they say very, very strictly. And if you need to lock things down, lock them down. Sure, does it upset folks, who have a lot of plans? Obviously. But when talking about the potential loss of life that's involved, that's just, has to happen.
And Don, working in law enforcement, we kind of spoke while the news conference was going on, talking about how the NOPD is under a consent decree. And I'm wondering if, again, they'd have to look into the safety is first. So when you're in a situation like that, these officers, is that something that you think could have hindered them because they have such strict standards and such strict requirements that they have to, and protocols that they have to abide by right now?
It certainly could have. I would hope that it didn't. I would hope that they were just relying on their law enforcement training, and that's what I would expect them to have done and not worry so much about a consent decree. But you just don't know because that was in play for so long and has been in play for so long, and there's been so much ado about it. You would hope that certain measures weren't taken because of some decree and maybe they didn't have the proper authorization to do it. I don't think that's going to end up being the case. I think they did what they needed to do to stop the threat.
And it appears that they reacted quickly. And to by every account, the police officers who ran to that scene should be lauded as heroes.
Absolutely.
They certainly stopped. We had Oliver Thomas allude this morning that they saved thousands of lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, hearing that the IEDs would have been there, I mean, you can imagine what potentially could have happened.
Right, right.
So they should certainly be applauded for that. And in that situation, though, and as someone working in the Secret Service, you have to account for the possibilities, right? However impossible they may seem.
Right.
You had that reporter there ask about, that they weren't expecting someone to drive on a sidewalk. Does it seem like the security efforts lacked if they were blocking a street but not a sidewalk, or especially knowing that these bollards that initially had been installed as permanent devices to protect against exactly this weren't working?
I think the bollards is the big piece here. Was there a lack of security? I don't know yet. I think that remains to be seen. Obviously this individual was able to get onto that sidewalk. So if there was a vehicle blocking the intersection because the bollards weren't for another block or so, then why wasn't the sidewalk also blocked off? And so those are questions that certainly need to be answered. We need to get the answers to that as to why it didn't happen. Whether it's a lack I don't know. It depends on what comes out in this investigation.
And then I want to ask you this, because Ann Kirkpatrick was talking about the wedges that I'm sure people here might be familiar with. If you're staying or in or around the French Quarter, you may have seen them. They seem to be permanent fixtures, and they're basically, I'll use my iPad to demonstrate, basically this piece of metal that comes up like this to block a car from driving through. So it can't go through because it's a giant piece of metal that's up to the hood of a car. You heard Kirkpatrick say that they didn't want to engage that for fear that what if they had to put it down and get an ambulance in there? What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, my reaction is, and why would you have them in the first place? You know, why would you have them in the first place if it inhibits, emergency responders or paramedics? It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You know, if they can go up, they can go down to allow for, emergency medical technicians to get in and out of the area. So
And to piggyback on that, Rob, talking about Kirkpatrick, she was talking about how there were patrol cars there. And again, yes, the sidewalks could have been covered. That was something that they asked as well. But like blaming the fact that the terrorists defeated what they had in place. That's literally what she said. What are your thoughts on that? Like, obviously, they're saying that they did everything they could, but did they do everything they could?
You know, again, I think that's going to come down to the investigation. I think we'll find out whether they did or not. I certainly hope they did, and that somehow this individual was so cunning he was able to circumvent that. You would hope that they weren't just saying, hey, we'll just leave it up to the whims of what people want to do. So, hopefully they had every measure in place. But, those are things that need to be said. That we did have, these contingencies in place to stop it, and this is how it was circumvented.
Transparency.
And so, yeah. You can't stop everything at all times, especially when you have soft targets, where there's no choke points, there's no vetting people going in and out. It leaves it kind of open for these types of things to happen. Gunfire, there's nothing really to stop that. Sometimes, these things unfortunately happen. It is an act of evil for sure. You don't want people to do these things, but they do anyway, because they hate our way of life here in America.
You heard Special Agent in Charge, Althea Duncan, there from the FBI, talking about the ISIS flag that was found on the car. Does that say anything to you in particular about where this investigation could be going?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anytime you have a terrorist organization's flag in the cab of the truck of the person that carried out the terrorist attack, that's a pretty big glaring sign. I would imagine that alone was the nexus for the FBI to take over the investigation and to begin to investigate this as terrorism. That alone would be sufficient to say, we need to follow this out, to see if foreign actors are involved, or was this just a radicalized American citizen who decided to do this on his own or with very limited help.
And Don, looking forward, we keep saying it, but we have the Sugar Bowl that's coming, but we also have the Super Bowl. And we saw our elected leaders on national television. It's not just us here in Louisiana, here in New Orleans. They are on national television talking about this, and they're saying, it's okay. Like the governor's saying, I'm still going to go to the Sugar Bowl tomorrow, trying to say, even though this is happening in our city, it's more of like, hey, it's okay to come here, even though they are investigating a terror attack. What are your thoughts on that and that way of trying to make sure people say, okay, you can still come here, but hey, we are still investigating this very serious situation?
Again, I think it goes back to striking that balance. Certainly you want to let folks know if it is safe, that it is safe to come here and to participate in the events that are going on in and around the city. But you need to know that in fact is the case before you invite folks into the city to do those things. And so I hope in the next few days moving forward, we're able to find out more particular detail on how many folks were involved. Are there other plots that are being investigated, and that would then dictate moving forward whether you shut things down or you allow them to happen and invite folks in. But I certainly can understand, from a political standpoint, that he wants to portray that they're doing everything they can and the city is safe.
Sure, and I think everyone can imagine right now that the city of New Orleans, the police department, the FBI are all working in concert right now. They're all responding in the absolute utmost way. And one of the things I was told by multiple people coming in to the headquarters there, we've got every resource, don't worry.
Right.
Well, it doesn't seem like, I mean, that's not the worry of a citizen right now, is it?
No.
They're not worried if the federal government is sending resources
Right.
for these people to do an investigation, right?
The
This
citizen
is-
wants to know, is it safe to come here? Am I going to be okay? Am my physical safety is going to be okay or not? That's it.
And especially if they have business in that area or anything, are they okay to just go about their everyday? Because people live here, the French Quarter, people live in the French Quarter. Like, this
Right.
is where, this is their home.
Right.
So it's like, they're trying to figure out, is it safe
And-
for me to even go to the store?
Yeah, and the Sugar Bowl itself, I mean, that's a huge economic driver
Yes.
for this city, not just with the hotels and the restaurants, but that 8-block stretch of Bourbon Street between Canal and St. Anne, where many of those bars and establishments rely on